All right, so here's the warm-up from earlier today, and here is the lesson. All right, so we're on the unit circle part 1, and so this is going to be, I'm freezing the screen, this is going to be lesson 8-4. So let's talk about some trig ratios. Trig ratios. So obviously we know our 3 trig ratios, which are pretty important. So if I say sine of theta, you can tell me what each of these are. Just a little bit of a review to get us livened up for this lesson. Tangent of theta. I guess I should really be putting parentheses around these. And with a single letter, go through each of these and say, for example, sine would be O over H. And go through all 6 of these. Cosecant of theta. Theta could be better. Cosecant of theta. Secant of theta. And cotangent of theta. So in your notes right now, make sure that you have all of these fractions done. Arrow go form. Cosine. Okay, tangent. Okay, cosecant. Yeah, and then you just flip all these, right? H over A and A over O. Perfect. So we know all of these, and we need to apply these to our special right triangles now. So this is going to be really short for the notes, but it's really important that we go through this pretty in depth. So let's make our right triangle. Let's make this one a 30, 60, 90. And I need to give some room over here on the left to write what the fraction is. All right, so in our last lesson we discussed if this is a 30, 60, 90, I need to do the marks here, 60 and 30. If this hypotenuse is 1, do you remember why that hypotenuse was 1? Yeah, it comes from the unit circle. So this would be the radius of the unit circle, and then I would, for example, don't draw this, but it would be something like this on the coordinate plane, and I would ask you something like, on this unit circle, this is the unit circle if I made a dashed line, what is the coordinate of that point? And the way to find that is by using the special right triangle. So let's undo all those dashes. So what is that point? And to do that, I need to find the measures of the side of the triangle. So you can go ahead and do that now. I'm actually going to be doing 3 triangles here. I'm going to do this 30, 60, 90. I'm going to do a 45, 45, 90, and another 30, 60, 90, but I'm going to switch the orientation here. So let's get all those set up in our notes. It's going to be a 45, 45, 90, and then it's going to look like this. I'll have to move this later. So all of them are, change the color back to blue. 45, this is going to be 30, and 60. I guess I can fill this in also. We know that's 45. Yes, the hypotenuse for all of these should also be 1. All right, so right now I want you to go back and fill in what all of these measurements are. See if you can remember, just memorize them. If you can't memorize them, you need to rederive them for the sides of these triangles. All right, so those are the solutions. And then the next step for this part of the lesson is I need to figure out what is sine of this angle. So remember that the unit circle is always going to be like right there for the origin, right here for the origin. This is always the origin point. And I'm asking for a certain part, a certain element of this triangle. And the way that I ask that is I say, what is sine of 30 degrees? So now instead of doing theta, I'm actually saying that is our reference angle, sine of 30. And what is that going to be? And off in the side, I should make a note. Sine and cosine. Those are really the only things I'm talking about today because they're the most common things that are asked for anything dealing with trigonometry. Tangent is kind of it is asked, but not as often. So sine, this is always asking about the height. So this is like think of this as the y direction, or if you prefer, height. Cosine, this is always going to be the x, or it's going to be the width. Note that if I am asking for a sine or cosine of an angle, sometimes on a coordinate plane I do have negative units. In fact, all these, let's treat this like it was on the coordinate plane. This is a positive 1/2. This would be a negative 3 square root of 3 over 2. These all would be negative because they're going to the left of the origin. The negatives can start confusing us, especially on the homework. So if I'm asking for sine of 30, what is sine of 30? Sine of 30 is, I'll do this one with us. Sine of 30 is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, so it's going to be 1/2 over 1. So sine of 30 is 1/2. And this matches with what we know on the side notes too. On the side I said, if I'm asking for sine, I'm really just asking for the height. The height of this point that I'm looking at is 1/2. All right, and then obviously I'm going to ask for the cosine of 30. What is the cosine of 30, Arrow? Divided by 1. Yeah, so it's just that. Exactly. So I'm going to rewrite the rest of this, and I'll let everyone fill it in on their own. So sine of 45 now. Cosine of 45. What are those equal to? And what is sine of 60 and cosine of 60? Fill in all of those on our own. All right, so here are the answers to check our work. And we're almost done with the notes. I just want to talk about how all of this relates to our unit circle. So do our best attempt to draw a circle. You have a piece of paper which makes it easy. You put your knuckle down, then hold your pencil, and then move the paper around that knuckle. So let's see if you can get a perfect circle. I have technology. Haha, I'm already done. All right. Actually, our unit circle should be like it should be a decent size. It should take up the rest of your notes because we're not doing anything after this. So there's our unit circle, and we put a coordinate plane behind our unit circle, or on top of, whatever you prefer. So we know that the radius here, if I drew a line from here to any point, this radius here, 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 it's always going to be 1 because that's the definition of the unit circle. What I'm eventually going to be giving you is, okay, I want to find the coordinate of this point here. And I'm going to tell you that this angle is 30 degrees. Again, what you should always be doing is you should be dropping a line to the x-axis. Never go to the y-axis. So let's also add that in our side. Drop line to the x-axis. You can do it with the y-axis, but you have to memorize 2 different systems. I would rather us all just memorize one system. So the reason I'm doing this is kind of arbitrary, but all mathematicians that I know do it this way as well, so it's just standard at this point. So when I drop the line to the x-axis, it should make a right angle with the x-axis, so an angle, should be blue, should be making a right angle. And now we've made that 30, 60, 90 triangle. So the coordinates of this point, how much right did I go? What is the x coordinate? And I should probably make this bigger, like that. How much right did I go? I went this amount. I went square root of 3 over 2 because this is square root of 3 over 2. That should be memorized. So the x coordinate of this point is square root of 3 over 2, comma. What is the height? Well, the height is this height over here. It's 1/2. 1/2. So we're going to be using all the knowledge that we did back in this previous slide and apply it to a bunch of measurements. I'm basically going to give you, I don't want to do a dashed line there. I want to do a solid line. I'm going to be giving you this line, and I'm going to be doing these lines and these lines. Notice that I skip the first 15 degrees, so I go 15 would have been like right here, 15, and then I go to 30, and then I do another 15, skip 15, skip that one, and I go here. So that's why these look a little bit like there's blank space in between here. And all of those lines, if I were to extend these lines, it would have been diameters, it would have been a little bit nicer. But I'm going to be asking you all of these points. You need to know the sine, cosine of all of these points on this unit circle. That needs to be memorized. So tonight we actually have 2 pieces of homework. So first you want to have this diagram. The 2 pieces of homework. The first piece is working on this worksheet. So this worksheet, given the unit circle, it gives you all the coordinates of the points, which is really nice. I'm asking for sine of 30, which means I'm looking for the height at 30. I go to 30, and I say the y-coordinate is 1/2. So sine of 30 is 1/2. I'll put that in here. So I'll fill in this entire worksheet, and then we're going to go to Quizlet. So on Quizlet, we're actually doing a competition against a few other schools. I decided that I could have kept it private, so between all 4 of us, but I want to compete against other schools too. So they have all of these cosine and sine of these degrees. So like cosine of 5 pi over 3, you should know that's 1/2. They don't say cosine of, I don't know, 270 degrees here. They just expect you to know 3 pi over 2 is 270, and cosine is asking for the x-coordinate of that. The x-coordinate is 0. It is putting everything we've done so far and putting it all together with Quizlet against other classes. So, and it's other math classes. I don't even know where it's pulled from. It might be like California, it might be somewhere else. But there are a ton of terms. I think there's like over 100 terms. Does it say? It does not say how many terms there are. Oh, 101 terms, and we'll see if you guys can beat Mr. Sindel. I am definitely not number 1. I'm like number 20 right now. So I'll be working to get to the first position as well. So a lot of things to do tonight. Go ahead and write your summaries now.